sharing his observations of running training in person over the course of the whole summer. And I said, just go, just rip it, tell what stories, whatever you love about it, whatever. And then we'll take some time afterwards to do some pros and cons, discuss, ask questions, all those different things. I will tell you that those of us that, I think it was everybody but Justin and Scotty, because you guys got in the car and left after staff, most of us stayed and got introduced to the training class. I don't know about you, but that was a hell of a good feeling for me. Just talking to those kids, going up, getting the better we know you sheet and asking them questions. You know, I said, I remember John, who was in that training class. I went up to him and I said, Mount Union, Purple Raiders. He's like, what? I said, you play ball there? Yeah. I said, oh my gosh, I love your coach. What did he win? Like 12 national titles? He's like, yeah, how'd you know? I'm like, my buddy played there. We chatted for a bit. How'd you find out about Cutco? Blah, blah, blah. Right. 10 days later, SC2, John comes running up. Mr. Bry, hey man, how are you? I'm like, hey, John, what's up, dude? Good to see you. How are things going so far? Minutes. We created a bond, created rapport in minutes. We can't do that via Zoom. I don't think, or we certainly can't do it as well. So I love meeting that training class. I don't know about you guys, but I thought it was pretty cool. So I just asked Logan, tell us observations. What did you see? What do you love? Go, and then we'll open it up after that.
Cool. I'll start by saying I definitely don't know everything. I don't have all the answers. I think as per this summer, I might be the most risk-taking, willing to try something and fail. And I had no clue. I remember a couple calls with DVMs and DMs pre-summer, and one DM in specific who's been here for 10 years or longer told me for 30 minutes on the phone why I was going to be the worst decision I've ever made in my career. And I was like, all right, that's great for your opinion. But all that being said, I think Brett's video, if any of you watched Brett's video, one of the things he said that kind of hit me square in the face was, if my life is easier and more convenient, it'll be more fun and it'll be better. Has that come to be true? And I was like, no, it hasn't come to be true. And I always think back to the DVM meeting. It was funny because it's not funny. I wasn't there. You guys were there and I was on Zoom. But I took a ton of notes. And one of the notes I took was, nobody has ever made a more successful business that sold more by spending less and being less risky. It's like, how do you have a better business? Risk more, spend more, invest more. Not on blind things that aren't going to have a good ROI, but on good things. And I have a sticky note on my computer in my office from Al that says, I need you to get your swagger back. In the last 2 years, I haven't felt as confident. I haven't felt as like I'm making as much of a difference. I haven't felt like I had that swagger. I don't know about all of you, but pre-COVID, we would go to a meeting, and as a DVM, I was like, I got a swagger. I'm a DVM. We're selling lots of knives, living the life. Like, people look up to me. This is awesome. I haven't felt that at all the last 2 years. Maybe J-Pro of 2020 for 4 or 5, 6 weeks. But other than that, haven't, and definitely haven't enjoyed it. So I heard, Jeff, I heard you say something about Parker's training. I'll show you just our group this summer. We're at 150K. It's all new business. We don't have any FSMs. This is kind of the breakdown. We got a 17K, an 11K, a 10K, 8, 8, 6, 6, 5, 4, 4, 3, 3, 3, 3, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. It's just a lot of people selling good amounts of Cutco. If we launch out 10 people, 8 of them are making sales first weekend, 5 of them are hitting their first promotion first weekend, has been my experience. So a couple of my initial reservations going back to in person this summer were, we're going to recruit less females. Do I want to do that? We're going to recruit less total people because of territory and zip codes and driving, gas money. It shrinks our recruiting distance, a lower show to training, gas prices, COVID scares, getting sick, parents saying, I don't want you going in person. Like, what do you mean? This is COVID. Those were all my initial reservations at the beginning of the summer, and maybe those are yours, and those were definitely mine a few months ago. But instead of getting emotional I'll share a couple slides of what has actually happened based on those reservations. So in terms of recruiting less females, this is our launch for the summer. We've launched 75 in the pilot, all in person. 48 of those have been females, 27 of those have been males. And so we've recruited 64% of our people this summer as females. Does that help that I have 3 kick-ass AMs that are all females? Maybe, probably. I think a big thing was our nervousness of going back to in-person recruiting less females was the initial interview. Going to an unknown place as a female. Once they get on the Apex interview, because we still do Apex, once they get on the Apex interview and find the legitimacy, they have no problem coming to the training, which is my experience. I didn't think that at first, beginning of summer, but that's been my experience. In terms of, oh, we're going to recruit less total people, these are my last 5 summers as a manager. 2018, 2019, pre-COVID, we launched 73 and 82, then 179 in COVID, 93 last summer. So far this summer we're at 75. We already have almost 30 set for training next week in second week of July. We're on pace to have our second biggest recruiting summer in the last 5 years other than 2020. And we're all in person. So the thought of, oh, we're going to recruit less people, I haven't found that to be true. I thought, okay, maybe a lower show to training. The Midwest region averages for the summer is 48% show to training, 63% launch. You set 100 people for training and you're going to launch 30.24. Novi averages for the summer, 39% show to training. It's been a little lower. I will say that. That's come off the back of 1 AM who ran a ton of interviews and wasn't very good. And that's my fault, not her fault. But we do have myself at 45% show for the summer and another assistant, Alyssa, at 56% show for the summer. We have another girl who's at like 21% and she ran a ton of interviews. That's my fault, not the in-person fault. And an 87% launch. Even with that girl getting that really low show, when we set 100 people, we have 33.93 launch. Still more efficient than the average for the Midwest region. And it's fun having 18 kids show up to training and launching 17 of them or 16 of them. Last week I set up a bunch less chairs for day 2 and everybody showed back up and I had to set all the chairs back up. I was like, oh, I'm not used to this. This is how it should be. These are some of my concerns: gas prices, COVID. When gas shot up early May, end of April, I was freaking out. I'm like, this is going to be a dumpster fire. Nobody's going to want to drive anywhere. I've had 0 conversations with any reps about gas this summer. That doesn't mean that hasn't been a concern. They probably are still concerned about it and talk to their parents about it. Just because they haven't talked to me about it doesn't mean it's not a concern, but I haven't had any combos about it. COVID scares. I've had 3 people cancel training because they got COVID. Getting sick. Me and all my staff got sick the first week of the summer. We're healthy now. It is what it is. And then in terms of parents not wanting their kids to come in, haven't heard anything from parents yet. That doesn't mean they haven't had concerns, but I haven't heard anything from them. Some pitfalls, some things I forgot about training and some things I've noticed. Some pitfalls and things I forgot. This is the biggest one. Getting my DMs adjusting back to in person. So me and the pilot, we've adjusted back really well. Rihanna, Marlena, Christina, they're all running in-person trainings. And Christina did just have the best week of her career, 10K in new business. So there's something to be said for that. But there have been a lot of things that I forgot that in the moment I remember that I also forgot to teach them. So maybe when you go back someday, like that's something to take into account. They don't have as much past experience to lean on as we do. Having kits prepared, forgot about that. Having rope and leather prepared, forgot about that. All the prints that we needed to have printed, definitely forgot about that. Printed stuff, during training multiple times. Resetting up the walls properly. Jeff grilled me and told me how my office had none of the walls set up properly. Forgot about that. And I also forgot how fun in-person stuff is. I genuinely, for the first time in 3 years, get up every day, get in my car, and I'm excited to go to work. I haven't felt that in 3 years. Maybe I didn't share this with all of you. I shared it with some of you. I was about to leave Cutco earlier this spring, and I sat down with Jeff in January, and I was like, and I don't know if I'm supposed to say this or if Jeff, you want me to say this, but I'm already saying it. So I was like, Jeff, I'm out of here. We had a 2-3 hour conversation and I left the conversation feeling great, but still feeling like I'm out of here. He was like, he was very graceful and very respectful. And And I interviewed with like 20 other companies this past February and January while being a DVM. I was 1.999 feet out the door. I had 3 DocuSign emails in my email for job offers that I was about to sign. And it wasn't until I got those emails in my Gmail to where I was about to sign them to where I was like, it's not over yet. I felt like God was like, all right, your time's not done yet. And so we were at SC1 and we had a SC1 pre-manager meeting, and I started crying like a schoolgirl. And I told him all that. And I said, here's the decision I made. And I said, just to let all of you know, I didn't want to quit Cutco. And I apologize for not being there for them in January and February and March. And I said, I didn't want to quit Cutco. I wanted to quit the last 2 years. And I told him, and I said, my promise I made to myself is to get back what I know to be true. And once I get that back, I'm going to make a decision then. And I told him, I don't feel like I 100% have it back yet. We've had 4 back-to-back weeks, 25K and new, and 4 weeks in a row. So that's fun. But I said, I feel like we're almost there. We're not back to it yet, but it takes work. And just because we went to in-person doesn't mean everything was like hunky-dory right away. I got punched in the teeth harder in May than I ever have. Didn't run training the second week of May because I got COVID, but kept moving forward and kept getting back up when we got knocked down. And, that was huge. Some things I've noticed, quiet kids can sell Cutco. Of our top 10, 6 of them are the most quiet, introverted people I've met. And I don't know. That's what I've noticed. I've noticed less kids have cars right now. I don't have any thoughts on that, just an observation. I've noticed they don't get as fired up as they used to. Like, you're like, all right, clap for that. And then like, I don't know, maybe COVID made them less, excited and outgoing. Small talk is short and sweet with the kids. You tell them to chit chat and they talk for like 12 seconds. There is less complaining. That's what I've noticed. They don't complain about things as much as they used to. And I don't know if they're like, I went through COVID, this is nothing. I don't know what the thoughts are there, but there's definitely been a lot less complaining about just things in general. I had a convo with Brett this week and he was like, well, Logan, I don't know if in-person is the answer because I see Drew Franke at 60K for the summer and I see Stacy Campbell at under 100K for the summer. And I said, respectfully, maybe they're doing it not the right way. Maybe they just went totally old school. I didn't go totally old school. I'm kind of like old school, new school hybrid. So I'll just share what we've been doing. Not that it's the right answer, but I'll just share what we've been doing. I'm not saying this is the right answer. This is just what we're doing. We've been doing virtual Zoom, all manager Zooms Monday, Friday on Zoom. We've been working with faraway reps. I have a girl who moved away to college early. I still been PCing her on Zoom once a week. She sells about $1,000 a week. And then we do Apex interviews virtually. Everything else pretty much is in person. AM's working in the office every day, PR calling, staffers, training seminar in person, team meetings in person, team night out in person, SLDM conferences, 95% of our PCs, and then once a month manager meetings with our DMs. For our training seminar, we've been teaching the in-person training and virtual training. So reps have like a toolkit in their toolbox. I have reps that do all in-person demos because they want to. I have a guy, Cooper. He's one of my AMs. He's at almost 20 grand in sales. He's like, Logan, if I have to sit down in front of a computer to do a demo or do a class ever again, I'm going to break it. He's one of my sharpest kids on my team. He wouldn't work here if it was all virtual. He went to my best private high school. We have some reps that do only virtual demos. I have a girl that just started, Kylie. She doesn't have a car. And she's like, I want to work from home. So she does that. I would say 85% of our people do about 60, 40, 70, 30. We give them no Zoom option for training. That's just not something we've offered. Not saying that's right or wrong. That's just not something we've offered. They all get sample kits. How I treat one demo versus the other is the exact same. Reps ask me every week in training, which one's better? Which one's better? And I'm like, they're the same. They get the same results. You could argue maybe it's a tiny bit better in person, but it's like a 61% sales ratio on Zoom and a 65% sales ratio in person. And you see the head nod and they're like, oh, okay, cool. That makes sense. They're pretty much the same then. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, you have more fun if you're sitting there and petting the dog and you get a iced tea and lemonade, but you get paid the same. Our training's been a lot of fun, a lot of engagement. What we've been doing is we have a Motor City training manual We have a Motor City PowerPoint. We don't use any of the calling apps. My kind of thoughts on that, not saying that's right or wrong. I've just tried to keep things as simple as possible. So I'm not going to go through this whole thing. I'm just going to show you one quick example here. Just one small example. Right here. So the entertainer pack video, they play the video and then they read this script, and then they either let the customer peel the carrot, or if they're on Zoom, they peel the carrot for the customer on Zoom. Up here, if they're in person, they cut the penny. If they're on Zoom, they just skip that part and do this. So the manual is very instructive of like, if you're in person, do this. If you're not, skip that bullet point. And then even to the phone approach, where's our phone approach? Right here. It says if it's a virtual demo, add this. If it's an in-person demo, add this. And then there's a differentiation for an in-person text confirmation and a virtual text confirmation. So the reps are fully equipped with everything they need to know. And I tell them to decide which one they want to do instead of letting the customer decide. And I go through in training, I have a couple final thoughts, but I go through in training and I give some examples. I'm like, if your best friend's mom lives 27 minutes away, what do you think you should do? And they're like, go in person. I'm like, yeah, exactly. If your grandma lives 5 doors down, what do you think you should do? Go in person. If your uncle lives in Kansas, what do you do? Zoom. So I kind of do that in training and they get the point. And I say, you decide that before you make the call, instead of saying, hey, Mrs. Customer, which one do you want to do? Because that kind of gets dicey. So they decide before they make the calls. Few final thoughts. Just some text messages. Some girl was dealing with some bad anxiety. So I sent her a message from my church. And she watched it. She's like, I watched it. It was super good. And then we had a follow-up combo and she feels great. I never had those types of conversations on Zoom. I never dug in like that with people on Zoom. You know, I'm not going to read through these, but I could give you 15 different examples of people just specifically saying how much fun they've been having this summer at the office. You know, I miss this a lot more than I thought I would. This is our team at SC1. This is our team. This is training 2-3 weeks ago. We're just having an absolute blast. Rihanna's there because she had 3 kids there. These 3 kids over here are her team. And we were just having a ton of fun. And then this is us at a team meeting last week. I 100% missed this way more than I thought I would. Way more than I thought I would. And so I don't have all the answers, but those are my observations and some of the things that we're doing.
Well, first of all, thanks for sharing all that, putting that together. Great presentation there. But you know, I just heard the 87% launch, the 10 launched, 8 sales, 5 with first promos. How does that feel? Again, what's the feeling here? So as you think about pros and cons, you think about benefits of each, in person, virtual, the hybrid, what time of year. You know, I'd like you to do an assessment for yourself. Some of the thoughts Logan had, some of the thoughts you guys have. You know, I think of the example of why did our company go back to having SLC in person? You know, that's a $700,000 investment from our company. Investment. Why? Culture, camaraderie, obviously the fun, community, all those things. You know, we need technology, but human interaction is what we do. What you're best at, each of you, what you're best at is building relationships. You're good at a ton of things, but you're best at building relationships. And we just can't do it through a screen. We need community. We need relationships. So you got to ask yourself, when is virtual value added and when does it take away? You know, I'll support your decision, but I think everyone needs to put some serious thought into this. So I'm going to stop the recording here, and then any questions you guys have for Logan, fire away.